Hi, welcome back to the shop. Thanks for stopping by. This week's video, I'm going to make a Birdseye Maple bowl to hold keys, actually, for my brother. This is a twice turn bowl. I've got it mounted in between centers right now. I'm just going to turn a tenon on the bottom of it, and I'm going to reverse it, put it in a 4-jaw chuck, and spin it around. And it's got a lot of nice bird's eyes in it. There's a few very shallow cracks, which I don't think are going to pose a problem. I think most of them are going to come out. And there's nothing there that we can't fill with CA glue if they're remaining, but it's got really nice big bird's eyes in it, so I think it's going to be a pretty sharp piece of wood. So we'll get a tenon on it and see how we make it. It's important to make sure that that area around the tenon is good and flat so you have a good contact surface for the face of your jaws to sit on. That's what gives it the support. It's also important to make sure that if you use a dovetail jaw like I do, that the angle on your outside of your tenon matches the angle on your dovetail. I'm just going to true up the rim of the bowl, then we're just going to spin the camera around it, and I'm going to make a pass. You can see how what a balance the inside of this is. I get asked this a lot, why do I do the inside, then go to the outside and come back to the inside? And that just brings it into balance, and that allows me to run it at a higher RPM. It gets me a faster cut and a smoother cut, and allows me to put a better finish on, I think. So that's why I do that. I started shaping the outside and forgot to turn the camera on, as you can see. I got some done without you getting a chance to see. I apologize for that. I put some salad bowl oil on this just to soften the grain, just to do a little cleanup cut on this. These twice turn bowls, as I've mentioned in other videos, the way that they're roughed in, you have to turn them against the grain. There's just not room to turn them with the grain. So this softens them up, and you can tell by the shavings that are coming off of the scraper here that I'm getting a really nice fine cut. So that's going to cut down on the sanding significantly. Years ago, I would have hesitated to turn a blank with this many cracks in it, but I've learned in the last few years that this thin CA glue will seal these cracks right up, makes a permanent repair that's not really visible. It doesn't look bad at all, and so I'm glad I could save this one. And this is just Starbond thin. They make a thin, medium, and a thick. They also make it in different colors, and they have an activator that you can dry it with. Some people will finish their bowl and put some sanding sealer on it, and then put the CA glue on so that it doesn't stain the wood. But this is pretty dark wood where the crack is. It's right in the heartwood. It looks like shake in the tree is what it looks like, actually. And so I don't have a concern about stain on this. Now you can use activator on this to dry it up, but I want it to go all the way down through. I don't want it to get a crust on at the top. I want it to go right through the whole bowl. Even though I'm going to turn some of it off from the inside and the outside, I don't know how much I'm going to turn off of each side just yet. So you can see that's just going right down in there. As soon as you put a drop, it goes right into the crack. If you hear that background noise every once in a while, I've got a little brooding pin with a bunch of baby chicks in it in my shop. They're going to be in there for a couple more weeks, and then have 2 or 3 more little guys move in for a few weeks before they get out into an outdoor coop. So here I'm just taking a last light skim just to take that excess CA glue off and put a nice finish cut on the outside here. So I have this sanded up to 400 grit, and I'm going to use some sanding sealer, some Mylan sanding sealer here now. Very easy just to rub on.
So I'll give this a couple minutes. I'm going to put a second coat on. I'll bring it back when I'm using the abrasive paste. All right, so I'm going to start out with some Yorkshire grit. This is the regular, and when I'm finished with the regular, I'll use the Microfine. This will just knock back that sanding sealer. Just put a coat of it on. You can put it on while it's spinning. Sometimes it's less messy just to rub it on like this and then buff it in after the fact. And the beauty of this stuff is that you don't need really any sandpaper beyond 240 or 320 grit, because it takes care of all the grits right up to, well, I normally would do resin up to 2500. This will take it up to 1000, and the Microfine will take it up, I think it's around 1500. And you use your lathe at the same speed as you would sanding, so somewhere between 350 and 400 RPM. So get a good coat of it on, use the same side of the towel that you used to put it on. And you just hold on it with the same pressure as you put on your sandpaper. Not too hard. And you can hear it doing its thing. When you're knocking back 2 coats of sanding sealer, sometimes you may have to use the regular twice. We'll see how we make out. Now the way you can tell if you need to do a second coat of the original abrasive paste, if you can still see the shiny spots from the sanding sealer, then you need to do it again. So I got most of it, but I can still see up here around the rim one spot, there's a shiny spot here, there's a couple little shiny spots that are mixed in there. So put a second coat on, do the exact same thing again, and those will likely be gone on the second coat. Then we can move on to the Microfine. You can see all the shiny spots are gone now from the sanding sealer, and we can move on to the Microfine. If you do a good job on your sanding and you take out all the scratch lines that are more coarse than 240 grit with your sandpaper and don't cheat, then a couple coats of this and a couple coats or a coat of the Microfine will give you a finish without any marks in it whatsoever. But if you've got 120 grit scratches in there, you're not going to get them all out. So you got to make sure that you do a really good job of sanding at least to 240 grit. And when the grit stops working, when it's done this thing, then you can turn the speed up on your lathe to about 600 and just allow that to meld into the wood. It's not a finish though, it just gives it a nice rich look. So now we're going to switch over and use some Microfine. One thing that I find is that I can't really find a paper towel that's smooth enough that you can't see the paper towel marks, and you know they're not lines in the wood because when you rub them, they go away. So you know that it's not scratches in the wood, it's just the lines of towel left, but still very, very good. All right, so I'll get you flipped around, we'll hollow out the inside, do the same process to the inside as we did to the outside, and then we'll get the bottom off. Alright, so those cracks are still filled in good from the CA glue. No issues there. This one here is not. I'm going to put a little more CA in that one, and I'm going to start sanding. Alright, so I've got this sanded up now to 320 again. And I've got 2 coats of sanding sealer on. I did actually cut my sanding sealer this time. I was told I could cut it up to 20% with lacquer thinner, and I did that, and I like how it works much better. It goes on much more smoothly, and I think it soaks in better as well. So I did that, and I put it in this quart bottle so I'm not wasting it out of that metal can anymore. So now I'm back into the abrasive paste again. More Yorkshire grit.
I'm just putting on some Microfine Yorkshire grit here now. I should mention though that on a wooden bowl you really don't need to use Microfine. The regular Yorkshire grit puts a fine enough finish on that you really don't need Microfine. I'm just showing off for my brother in this one, I guess.
Okay, now for the finish I am going to use Hampshire Sheen High Gloss. It goes on exactly the same way as the Yorkshire grit. On with the cloth, buff it in, only a much higher speed. The secret to this stuff is not to try and build it up all at once. Put on a light coat, then put on another light coat. That makes a nice finish. Alright, so I'm going to put one more coat on, and then I'm going to flip it around, and I'll bring it back when I'm turning off the bottom. Okay, so I've taken this off. I've got a piece of kitchen countertop. If you've watched any of my videos, you've seen me use this before a few times. Put 5 spots of hot melt glue around the outside edge, center it up nicely. You can see it's running really true. If you're careful, you can do a really good job of that. I'm just going to put the tailstock up to it, just enough to say it's there, not very hard, because I don't want to expand the bowl and pop those glued spots off of that countertop. So it's just there, and that's all. And I'm just going to take most of the base off with the tailstock in place, and then I'll switch it around. I'll take it out of the way and I'll switch around and clean up the rest. Now you want to do this at fairly low RPM. I wouldn't recommend going any more than 500 or 600 RPM at this. And if you noticed earlier on, you probably saw this chisel and thought, what kind of a weird grind is that? Well, this is, I put an Irish grind on this chisel, or at least a swept back grind on it, and I didn't like it. So I'm just in the process of bringing it back to a traditional grind, and that's, so it's kind of in transition. That's why it looks the way that it does. All right, I'll sand this up. I'll bring you back when I'm putting the finish on the bottom. This is long grain, so it sands really easily. It won't take long. Okay, so we're sanded up to 320. I'm going to put a little bit of sanding sealer on the bottom. Again, this is my land. You can see I switched to a squirt bottle. Much easier. And like I said earlier, I thinned it down now. And that just goes on so much easier that way. Thin down. It's beautiful, actually. Okay, taking it off. Make sure the relay's powered down so you don't hit any buttons by mistake. We're just going to slide. I'm going to do it from my side, but I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to slide this chisel underneath of that glue and give it a little pop. Now I'm going to hold carefully into the countertop, the backer, and give it a little pop, and it'll pop right off.
If you're still with me, thanks so much. I appreciate it. I'll leave some stills up at the end. Thanks to everyone who has subscribed to the channel, to everyone who watches my videos. I certainly appreciate that as well. If you're not a subscriber and you like the content, please consider subscribing and hit the notification button. Also, if you'd like to leave a comment and a thumbs up, that really helps the channel. And if you didn't care for what you saw, leave a thumbs down and a comment. Let me know what you'd like to see me do to improve. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.